comes in here and potentially at least is a, you know, a good sidekick for Faker for now. We'll see how long that continues at least. And we are going to come in here to this matchup. T1 on the blue side, Liiv SANDBOX on the red side. By the way, I just got a little text from Atlas. He said, please remember Pyrian. Sorry to the Pyrian fans out there. Yes, he was also one of the mid laners for the side of T1. But I digress, as we are here in 2021.
And this is a different era of T1, right? This is when T1, stand at 1-3 after picking up some of the biggest new talent in Korea after failing to qualify for Worlds this past year. And this is a dire time for T1, right? So I feel like the scale of Closer coming in here, when T1 fans are both asking for Faker, but also asking for change, it's one of the scariest times, and the times where you're going to feel the most pressure if you're Closer. So we see the targeted Aurelia ban once again against this fantastic assassin player.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a big ban. You're losing a lot on the red side when you go ahead and target ban something like that. I mean, you would expect that Taliyah has to get banned here, but we'll see if they try to do what I believe it was DRX, what they did against KT, and try to leave open the Taliyah, and maybe you get a Kai'Sa as a trade, but then nobody picks Taliyah anyway. It's a weird kind of Twilight Zone. That is what we are going to get as the Yone gets banned away here as well. A lot of respect shown to Closer. And let's see if T1 throw Taliyah to Cuz and give him a good starting point.
I would love to see it, and that's where they're going to head. So I actually personally don't really like the Yone and Aurelia bans here, because those are champions that need there are questions that have to be answered before you can pick that up. You need an AP jungler locked in first. It's great in the third rotation oftentimes, but that gives SANDBOX some time to think about what they want to draft against it. But if you leave the Taliyah open, that's going to be a great first pick on blue side in every situation. So, I mean, they're showing mad respect to Closer, but what they lose is a lot of early game power here with the Taliyah pick coming through. But they left open the Kai'Sa. They get to bring that one back. They'll very likely eat up their jungler here as well. Something like a Nidalee or Graves. Both open and fantastic choices for Kroko. His Graves, not as famous as his Nidalee in the very short career again he's had. But, the Udyr. Oh, no.
Now, this is really interesting. The Udyr being prioritized here as well, picked already. They don't want to reveal what else they have in store. So they go ahead and pick it into the Taliyah. Taliyah can be run down by fast stuff. We've seen Hecarim, we've seen other sorts of very aggressive jungle champions that can do that. So it's interesting too, because Udyr doesn't have a dash per se, which can, Taliyah can kind of counter with her rocks that go on the ground. So I kind of like the pick.
Yeah.
I do, but it's pretty early on, and it still has yet to be seen if Kroko can actually perform on this pick. We've seen it succeed very well and also fail pretty hard, so I'm curious to see where Kroko lands with this.
Yeah, it's 1-1 outside of Pioshik. I think that's the asterisk that everyone's looking at right now, and it's a very difficult champion to pull off in pro play, and if you fall behind early, you can have a lot of problems with this pick. It's almost like in a more extreme version of Olaf in that way, so we'll see. I have a lot of faith in Kroko. He's definitely one of my rookies to look out for this year, even though Liiv SANDBOX have had a really tough start this season. Definitely something to look into. And Cuz actually, or Connor rather, gonna have this Camille pick into the Gnar right away, and this is something that can really get out of control. When you look at the lineup that T1 have for early game, you can snowball the top lane if you can actually roam with Taliyah successfully, get some kills onto Summit's Gnar. And you're going to have Orianna who can actually have some really nice teleport ganks, much easier to execute than something like a Syndra. So I feel like T1 have everything they want right now in terms of matchups. And, you ban away the Yone, you ban away the Aurelia, but now T1 just have a strong meta draft. And you haven't prevented any of that, so respect shown again to Closer, and they knew they were going to get the Taliyah right with these bans. They didn't have the follow-up AD mid laner, but I'm so far feeling very comfortable with T1's draft at the moment, just because there's just no glaring holes in it, and they have a really strong theme towards controlling that top lane.
Yeah, they control top lane. You already have team fight options with Camille Oriana. We'll see what else they do ban alongside of this. Just trying to take away 2 of the kind of meta picks in the AD carry role, because that was overlooked by T1 in their first set of picks. And already the Kai'Sa. So if I'm Liiv SANDBOX, I would love for jungle to go even, mid to go even, Krako to just help out there and not let Taliyah do a lot early, and then focus on getting your bottom lane ahead and having a good time there. You'll note the Seraphine ban as well. They're trying to take away power from that bottom lane and not let Leo and Effort go crazy out of control.
Exactly.
And Fate says, okay, whatever, I'll just play Victor. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, this means we're probably not going to see something like, you know, a very aggressive Nautilus pick that Effort's found a lot of success roaming to the mid lane with, because Victor just doesn't have hard CC to lock anybody down. There's no follow-up to, you know, a great dredge line landing. So I don't think that's going to be the path they take. But I like the Seraphine ban because it does take power away from the laning parts of that bottom matchup. The Aphelios ban is fantastic because it means that you're not going to get that Aphelios Thresh lock-in that T1 could have looked for here. And, you know, Teddy, again, one of his most famous picks was the Aphelios. Looks like he might go down the Vayne path here for some really strong late-game follow-up to what is already a very fast-tempoed game for them in the early game. It gives them some late-game follow-through. Thinks better of it, though. Well, what's the answer here? They're going to go for the Kai'Sa response here in Xayah. Maybe have some roots help shut down that matchup.
Yeah, I don't mind it. And it certainly shifts this composition very late. Obviously, Camille for some pretty strong side laning, and then Oriana Xayah will be some pretty fun late-game times. But again, Liiv SANDBOX have some of their own, as Rakan being considered here for F.
Lovers quarrel, perhaps, in the bot lane. Looks like it.
Yeah. Having some rough times there in that relationship.
They're facing off against each other at the bottom of this draft at the moment. I think that's a really good response to Keриa's Leona. You can have really nice defensive follow-ups when he decides to Zenith Blade in. He tries to be aggressive in the bottom lane. And it looks like Liiv SANDBOX just really wanted this bot lane to be stable more than anything else. They didn't want a crazy AD mid lane assassin for closer. They handled that in the early part of the draft, and then they made sure this bot lane was going to be something that could be pretty stable, right, for this Kai'Sa pick. And it looks like they're just looking for a pretty slow-paced, stable game that scales up in the late game. And I feel like if we had almost any other jungle pick, I'd be very comfortable with what Liiv SANDBOX are trying to execute here. But I have my questions about Krako Zudir. We just don't know how well he's going to be able to play this champion yet. It's so difficult to execute. And it's into a very weak side top matchup, especially with the Taliyah pick and the teleport Oriana that we're going to see, which can be so strong for gank timings. I am worried for Liiv SANDBOX, as I think we all are.
Yeah, the Rakan, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of, but I think they were just feeling like they wanted some hard engage, right? Udyr and Gnar can look for their moments, but they can't really press like one button and just go crazy unless the enemy team just runs into Mega Gnar or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. I actually would have loved to see Thresh. I think that effort on the Thresh would have been really nice. You have a lot of kind of squishy champs on the other side that you could just get like Death Sentence into kill with some of your big damage potential in the late game. But I digress. We'll have to see how this Rakan goes, if effort can pull it off. And how this early game is going to go, I feel, will be very key to how this game does play out, as we are going to move on to the Rift here for game number 1, T1 up against Liiv SANDBOX.
This is definitely a very different draft for Liiv SANDBOX. You know, in Kespa Cup, they were drafting very heavily prioritizing the Renekton right in the top lane, and Effort was playing a lot of Alistar. And we've moved very far away from that now. This is Fate's first game on Victor in his career, or at least rather the season, excuse me. He might have played one or two that I missed otherwise, but it's been a long time. And it's not a draft that allows Effort to play to his strengths of roaming. So Liiv SANDBOX are kind of pushing themselves out of their comfort zone here in a lot of ways. And that could be good for team growth, but it is going to be, I feel, an uphill battle in this game against T1. because you're pushing yourself out of themes that you've used in the last few drafts against a team that will punish super hard, that is fantastic in terms of their mechanics. And, I mean, Xayah is a pick that Teddy is very well versed on, has played it, you know, when she was meta in other eras.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if maybe picking something a little bit more, you know, CC lockdown for the mid lane, like the Zoe that Fate's played so many times so far, would have been a better option for trying to snowball what could be a very aggressive roaming support, right? But with this Rakan, it feels like they're just playing not to lose in a lot of ways, and that can work out in every aspect except with this Udyr pick, which is where I really have my biggest questions.
That's where Wolf draws the line.
That's where I draw the line.
The Udyr comes out, and Wolf, he's drawn that line in the sand. Not allowed. We do have Omni Stone on the Camille again. Again, it's just, you know, if you go Grasp, you're not going to get a lot of procs onto a ranged champion like an R, so you're just looking to use whatever you get, as Camille doesn't really have a very obvious pick. Here are some of the Croco stats that we do have here.
Yeah. And, you know, kill participation at 15, definitely one of the more impressive ones here as you take a look at where he spends his time in the jungle. Not so much onto Summit, actually, more so onto Effort, right? And that's where Effort has found a lot of success, again, by roaming. And this is pre-15, the jungle proximity stats you see on the right side. And that's where Effort has found so much success with aggressive roaming supports that this Rakan is just simply not going to allow him to do. I mean, look, there are ways, and Rakan can zone, as we're going to take a look at his stats on the champion. Very good, 16-3 career. But it's not going to be the kind of champion that you can walk up to an Orianna with a Victor and say, all right, well, I'm going to try to make a pick because we have priority in bot. Just simply not going to happen. He's too swishy. He's not oppressive in lane. You're probably not going to have lane priority, in fact, oftentimes, especially with the Talia.
Yeah, he's self-counterpicked for lane, right? the Leona's pretty good to this matchup, so you're like, I hope you have some incredible plays late game Effort. Otherwise, you know, make me a believer is basically what I'm saying.
So far, I'm not believing at the moment, sadly. I believe he's a fantastic player, but in this particular isolated game, he's playing on hard mode, right? He didn't even play the campaign on normal first.
Yeah. He's a hardcore gamer, you know. He goes straight to nightmare mode, and he says that's the only way to play the game.
When I was younger, I used to always do that, and I felt really cool, and I was better at games when I was younger, but now that I'm old, I'm like, I guess I just have to play on normal.
Yeah, you know, you kind of accept your fate eventually.
Slow hands, old man wolf. Okay.
You're not the only one. Effort here, yeah, he's gonna get away. He's not gonna stick around for too long. As he will just hop back to base. And yeah, so far not too much action, right? Both junglers just farming it out. Both of them very strong farming junglers. Croco a bit more so early on. Talia gets pretty insane once you get a couple items. You can kind of just like one-shot camps. And Udyr does that a bit better early on. And that does mean that Croco's going to keep up, you know? So the Udyr pick in that sense, he says, okay, you're going to get something that has tons of control in the early to mid game and has fantastic game potential and stuff like that. But if I can keep up with you in farm and my laners are safe, perhaps I can scale to a good spot and we'll be okay anyway. Yeah. So I'm very curious to see how he plays out the Udyr pick. You know, does he look for potential early game stuff, or does he just go full on, you know, herbivore mode, which is basically just killing monsters and not killing champions?
I think that's where we are so far is, you know, with this lane priority in the bot lane, which has been non-stop in favor of T1. Good CSing by Leo, regardless, actually staying even. They're just going to be able to force this Drake into their favor, and Croco's just caught at an unfortunate timing and just back, so nothing else traded on the map, sadly. And part of the issue with this too is that the top matchup is also going to be priority to Camille at this stage in the game, and it may even get worse as time goes on. We'll see how well Summit plays this. So we have seen some really good top laners actually end up crushing this event against the Camille, but there's not much for Udyr to look for pick-wise at the moment. Like, it's a really awkward situation where he's late, can't actually affect the Drake, can't deal with his bot pressure, And it just is going to farm, like you said, but doesn't find himself ahead in farm. Hasn't taken any risks in that regard either. So, you know, the tempo for this Udyr is definitely slow from the outset. Definitely in turtle form, you know, the tempo.
He's Franklin right now. We'll see if he turns into Hobbs a little bit later. Yeah, I think that's why Jonah Strong was really showing off some of the vision in the bottom side when they were like around level 4. Because I think he was actually expecting early pressure in the bottom side from Krako. You know, that's one thing you can do. You have the Rakan, maybe you force out a couple of flashes, you get your Kai'Sa ahead, and you're feeling pretty good. But what we saw instead was just straight up, you know, PvE mode. We're playing World of Warcraft here. We're just sitting back, and that's it. So
now looks like my jungle.
Not what, yeah, not what Jonah Strong expected, I suppose. But you know, Krako's gonna be in a good spot in terms of CS, cuz doesn't want to gank any lanes either. That's very much his style of play as well. And we're just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
We're just sitting here. We're farming. T1 got that early mountain, which is going to be great. You definitely want to deny that, especially against Udyr Gnar. That would make their kind of a bit of, you know, like a slow engage. They can sustain a lot more damage as they're going into the fight a bit better with that Drake, but not the case.
Look at this bottom as well. Cuz hits 6. This is where, you know, he can really force the issue with the Weaver's Wall. This is actually a really nice timing. Rotates over, knows they don't have vision, and Keria has Zenith Blade. They're actually going to commit. This is perfect.
Well, they're going to try for it here. The teleport does come in. Follow-up knock-up on the Cuz, and immediately T1 just get the hell out of there. They're going to get the TP away from Summit. That's the trade. Keria has to flash away, as does Cuz. And Kana will get a bit of a free lane in the top side for that.
Yeah,
trade.
so it looks like, okay, well, this is a failed gank, and technically speaking, because he didn't get the kill and did have to, you know, trade a flashback from Keria. Okay, they're not done yet.
They're still here. They just walk up to Effort, and he is just dead. Not respecting the fact that they could have stuck around, and they will punish, as now Krako, he's going to get Hextech ultimatums, but only just takes a bit of poke damage, and the Summit coming up here should be totally fine. But the real win for T1 is down at the bottom.
Yeah, they actually end up getting more out of that than they were supposed to, based on what we saw just moments before. So that's actually a huge win for them. Plus, they, you know, had control of top for a little while. That forced Krako to you know, rotate up and help deal with that pressure, so they didn't lose a turret plate. But that was, yeah, definitely a little bit of a weird overextension from Liiv SANDBOX. We'll have to take a look at the replay because we kind of jumped into that fight a little bit late to see as to how that happened. But I mean, like you said, they walked up to Effort. Part of the problem with Rakan too is he's just not that survivable if he does get CC'd, which is part of the reason why you said it's kind of like a self-counter pick right into the Leona. So yeah, I mean, it looked like maybe it was going to be a huge win in the top lane. They pulled Krako away. It ends up being a minor win in the top lane, but a massive win in the bottom lane regardless. And, you know, the silver lining isn't even really there because Keria used, you know, the Hex Flash, or he's going to have Hex Flash, so it's not like the end of the world for him when he had to flash away.
Yeah, he got the kill without the flash.
Yeah.
So it's like, an Effort didn't even get an opportunity to flash. It was just a bit of an oversight, not expecting them to stay. You know, they thought, okay, we got the flashes out. We lost a bit of priority up in the top side because of it, but now we get some lane tempo in the bottom side we can push. And now they're going to go on to Effort here once again. He is going to have to ult to get away from this one. Doesn't have to blow his flash, which is pretty nice, but you can see that they're using some of that win in the bottom side to now pressure into the enemy jungle, making it more difficult for Effort and Krako to stick around the bottom.
They make it difficult for Effort and Krako to be relevant here. They push Leo away. And so Teddy gets free farm. He's up now almost 15 CS. He's going to get a turret plate. And this is just perfect zoning to make sure Teddy gets farmed here and actually gets a massive lead. You know, both of these champions in the bot lane are very, very good scaling into the late game. So it's kind of a race oftentimes in the bottom lane as to who gets that gold spike first. Kana will have to hookshot away, but we'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, this is a really nice start for T1. Kind of everywhere on the map, and still we haven't seen Krako be relevant outside of the jungle. He hasn't been able to make any saves. He hasn't actually made any big plays. And this is kind of, you know, even though we know Udyr can rotate around the map and be really fast, usually when you find success with him, he has that massive tempo advantage. It's finding everything on the map, and so far it's been silent. He's gonna look for the Drake though.
Yeah, and we'll see how this one does go. Keria in position to potentially punish here. No flash for him. Nice dodge from Krako. He's got that speed that we did mention. Here comes Effort over the wall. Nice shockwave in the back, and the Rakan just dies. But here we do have a front line finally as Leo moves in. Krako also running forward. Gonna sustain a lot of damage, but now Fate looking to press the issue alongside of Leo. They're gonna pick up a double kill now for the Victor, who is 2-0-1 after that play.
Great start here for Fate, and this was just a poorly executed attempt by T1. So they're actually going to look for more here. Can't find it. Shockwave on cooldown, so not going to be able to close that one out. But yeah, the chase there from T1 was a little bit awkward in the bottom side. You know, Teddy couldn't set up any roots, and they were just kind of out-positioned there. And the front line for T1, non-existent, as Summit's just going to say, get out of here.
Scram! That's what he was saying. And Kana has been having a little bit of trouble up in the top side. I think even after he pushed in when Gnar was away, Gnar immediately came back to play the Steel Caps, and he's just been bullying. And Kana has been struggling a little bit up there in a matchup that we've seen a lot of Camille's have some success in. So a bit worrisome up there. We'll see how that one goes. But here's what happened down at the Drake.
Yeah, there's just so much poke damage here for the side of Liiv SANDBOX. The Solar Flare completely misses, and Effort comes back in a choke point. This is one of these choke point moments for Victor, right? And I know I sound like a StarCraft commentator talking about choke points and AoE damage, but like this happens with Victor so often, where you just end up chasing too hard. Support comes in with some CC, and then he gets another Death Ray, and then you're just out of luck. He gets a double, and he is massively ahead now. And this game is...
The fact...
I was just saying, the game is definitely turned on its head a little bit.
For sure. And the fact that the Victor is allowed to just get a free double stun, that's never supposed to happen. Leo here in a bit of trouble. He's going to ult over the wall. Effort looking for some help, and he will get it. There was no flash available for Leo, so it's great that he was able to get it over the wall. But still good pressure to try to get Teddy ahead. He should be able to push down that turret and continue this pressure and the lead that T1 do have in the bottom lane.
Yep. This is looking really fantastic for Summit in the top side of the map, though. And, you know, it starts to beg the question, really, for the Gnar in the LCK is, you know, his win rate has shot up from 0 massively over the last few weeks. It makes you wonder if, you know, China was just more prepared for this meta and Korea just took a little bit of time to actually practice it more and figure it out, because at the beginning of this season, you would have expected, especially Kana versus Summit, like, based on what we'd seen in LCK in the first few days of play, like, Kana crushes this matchup. It's not even close, right? It ends up being, it feels like Camille is the answer to Gnar, but now we're seeing Gnar picked as a response to Camille so many times that it's starting to actually be successful even in just isolated lanes. So the story of Camille Gnar has definitely changed. I mean, you and I were calling it the orange buff even, right? Because it was getting so crushed by some teleporting mid laners, right? Like the Twisted Fate. But this is definitely a completely different story. And it has really been, over time, changed the perception of Gnar here in the LCK. No one's teasing about it anymore. No one's laughing about saying, what's up with this pick? It actually feels like the strongest top pick. And it is, at the moment, the highest picked champion in the top lane.
Yeah, it's the difference between a Camille that gets no attention and a Camille that has tons of supporting ganks and help from her team, right? Camille has some of the best gank assists in the game, especially after level 6, but if you don't use it, you know,
yeah.
You're just going to get ranged down and not have a fun time. So here's Liiv SANDBOX. They're looking to make a statement. They have Shelly, and they want to dive. It's going to be a 4-on-4, it looks like, with double teleport coming in as Keria looks to engage. That's not going to be too fantastic. Great Featherstorm comes in from Teddy, but immediately Keria is going to go down. We also have the rotation now from Liiv SANDBOX. It's 5-on-3 now as Talia a bit zoned away. Nice shockwave, but here comes Summit looking to pick off one, and he will be able to take down Closer. Now in the front line, Kana desperately trying to get the follow-up engage, but won't be able to.
Everyone's so low.
Low health bars here on the side of Liiv SANDBOX. They want to get that engaged, but Teddy's still very healthy. Is that wall gonna knock up Leo here? He's gonna have to be the damage, but it is not enough. They're being kited down here in the little alcove, and that is gonna be the ace for T1. They play out that very precarious situation extremely well, and eke out the ace.
Look at Teddy's health. At the end of a fight like that, the damage dealer, the 80 carry, in this moment is left relatively untouched. His positioning here and the response from T1 is so good. Look at where he is in this entire fight. Look at the peel from Kara. He actually is able to use his ult to get away, to survive on the backside of this fight. And this is like, could there be any more Liiv SANDBOX players in the spot lane? You know, they're all come down here, and yet his positioning is perfect the entire time, and the rest of the team just works around him. Then you see Kana eventually show up, the Hextech ultimatum pushes everybody back, and Teddy just is never for 1 second in any real danger. He does all the damage here. Cuz saves his ultimate until the very end, and you could tell that T1 knew that this is a fight they could win. In the longer fight, if Teddy survives, they fought around that. And there was never even, it looked like, a moment of worry or fear for T1. They just knew, okay, this fight keeps going and we win it. What a fantastic turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes down to a bit of range difference as well. They burst down the Victor pretty fast, and then they're like, well, we have Talia, we have Xayah, we're feeling pretty good. And you know, Wolf, sometimes it's great to return to old reliable.
Yep.
Teddy comes back. He's still an amazing player, right? Everybody's like, Gumiusi's the next big thing. And he absolutely is. And he could become even greater. He's a fantastic, mechanically, you know, blessed, I would say, even 80 carry, a young guy who's up and coming. But Teddy is still insanely good. And I think he proves that there in that team fight. Like, so many little things, like his spacing was basically perfect the entire time. The Featherstorm timing was perfect, as we mentioned. And it's so good to go back to over-reliable and say, man, we can really rely on this veteran player to carry us through those moments that look really sticky. And he does it with such finesse. It was so awesome to watch.
Yeah, and you could tell that the play around Cuz as well, the synergy is definitely there. And oftentimes, teams that have, I mean, teams like T1, right, that have massive talent just kind of bought up, you know, buy out the competition, you might say. So they actually have some of the biggest prospects in Korea right now. It's an insanely huge org, esports-wise. You could tell that, you know, sometimes these teams, they scrim with two different types of rosters. It feels like with Teddy in and Cuz in together, there's some real synergy there. And it makes you wonder if, like, this is a roster that's run a lot in scrims, this 5-man roster. And it does kind of, for me at least, beg the question is this is not just a, okay, it's Liiv SANDBOX, let's mess around with this roster or B team. It feels like it's something that's more than that. It feels like there's a lot of synergy here in terms of the calls. And that team fight was just executed so beautifully from all sides, including Carrier's peel there and cause this really patient rotation in. So, yeah, I mean, Gumiusi is a new player that is really, really on the rise, very exciting player right now, but you know, Xayah might just see more of Teddy's wheelhouse, and historically speaking, it has been.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
So, like, you look at Teddy here and you go, well, you know, we can give them that first pick Kai'Sa, that's fine, or that first rotation Kai'Sa, because we've got the answer here.
Yeah, you know, I would definitely agree, and that has been proven in this fight that we did just see. We'll see how it goes from here. T1 have a nice little lead in this game, about 2,500 gold. Obviously, their bottom lane has gotten massively far ahead. And even though Kana is still just getting bullied in the side lane, he's 3-0-1, and he's comparable in CS. So regardless of what you want to say about how that lane has played out, he's done a great job of keeping up and getting fed. So he's going to be a menace in the side lane. Mid lane's also going really well. T1 are in a great spot. I feel like Krako still hasn't done anything. Fate in a... Okay, well, he's just dead. See you later. He didn't have flash, actually. That was about 10 seconds away from having flash. And Keria notes it and takes him down.
Yeah, really, really good communication on T1's side. You know, Closer probably the one to, you know, relay that information. Keria's got it in his mind, and they just pop it off. Okay, Weaver's wall here, a little bit odd, but there's just no way out here for Liiv SANDBOX. I think with the turret still up, I mean, small misjudgment, I think, there by T1. The turret was super close to going down, but while it was still up, they couldn't actually collapse and look for kills there.
Yeah, lots of ultimates down, too, so I don't think you're... I feel like that would be more of a zoning ultimate, if anything else, but...
It's perfectly timed here, the follow-up. You know, it's instantly Closer's got the shockwave right afterwards. Solar Flare perfectly aimed. And that's just an easy pickup there. All it takes is a flash to get out of there, but like you said, like 10 seconds away, maybe even less. Fight's pretty self-explanatory otherwise. 30 seconds before this Drake, which would be, you know, the Cloud soul point here for T1. So Liiv SANDBOX are desperately trying to get a positional advantage here and vision control. As, you know, if they can control the choke points, that's where this pick of Victor for Fate is going to be massive. Once again.
Krako's desperately trying to be relevant, and I love his effort.
Yeah.
Right? No pun intended, of course.
Sure.
I love how he's really trying to abuse the speed of Udyr and look for moments to pop forward and pop back, but so far, again, hasn't really amounted to too much. T1, they give away the Cloud Drake. They're like, okay, whatever, sure. We're going to get position here on the lanes instead and look to zone you out and take more map pressure and map control.
You talked about the range issue, and you know, with Victor on the on the Drake and with Liiv SANDBOX completely grouped up there, there's not a way to really collapse in here into the lane. Whereas T1, I feel like we're taking a, if they decided to contest that, it would have been taking a pretty big risk positionally versus the Victor, right? And the setup that Liiv SANDBOX had, Croc was positioning there as well towards the Drake. So instead of just trying to take what could be a suboptimal fight over a Drake that's not as consequential as some other potential Drake types, they went to lane, and Croco again.
Uh-oh, again, here we go. Oh, man, just ulted under turret. We see it twice now in a row. The flash from Keria, maybe a little bit overzealous, as even Teddy is going to get low from that. Closer thought he had some minions, I suppose, but eats a ton of damage from Victor and the turret, as they get the one pick, although the follow-up wasn't so clean.
Yeah, the follow-up wasn't amazing there, but it was still a really nice pick. Really decisive play we're seeing once again between Keria dropping down solar flares and the follow-up from Closer. So another kill, this time onto Croco. In T1, they're starting to get so far ahead in terms of the gold that they can afford to just give up these Drake fights and look for turrets. And they also have good siege, more than Liiv SANDBOX, as we watch this once again. Leo, unfortunately, not able to follow up on him. He's too safely positioned. Keria does decide to try for it, but not going to happen. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we're getting to the stage where T1 could just say, oh, I have a positional advantage on this fight. I'm going to take it. Otherwise, I'm going to try to push for something else. And there's nothing that Liiv SANDBOX can do about it, right? It's not like the game is over, but they really need to take fights on their terms defensively with this Victor pick. They can't really walk in and initiate. It's so much more difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, and this is, again, I really wish we had Thresh in this game instead of Rakan. Like, if they were ahead, yeah, Rakan could really open up some great engagements and get Kai'Sa into your backline and have a good fun. But if you fall behind, it's like Rakan is literally sitting there and doing nothing. Whereas Thresh could be looking for picks, looking for fun stuff, defending well with Flaze. Summit is going to flash away and actually survive from potentially 4 people, you know, bearing down on him there. So props to Summit for getting out of that one.
Yeah.
And looks like they'll just back out of it.
T1 are rotating around the map like a group of piranhas, right? Just pouncing on anything they see that looks like it might be a juicy target that they can pick off solo. And, you know, this one doesn't work out, but it ends up being, you know, they get Summit's flash. So it's still successful in that regard. And, you know, T1 are just moving as a group, as a unit, until the next objective fight. That's where they want to make their stand. They have right now, you know, no real vision or no control over this Baron pit. That's where they're gonna take their next focus as they rotate over to make sure Liiv SANDBOX don't have any chances to outposition them and get that Victor value coming through. So they have Archangels completed for Victor now, as Fate is starting to get, you know, very, very powerful. And a lot of these team fights, he is going to do tons of damage if left to his own devices. Especially if he hits it in the AoE, right? Okay, once again, Keria, this time, not going to hit the solar flare he's looking for.
Effort is kind of a no man's land. He has to get in here. He's going to charm up a couple of people, but again, there is no follow-up. Summit here on the backside, just being chased down by Teddy. He's going to have to hop the wall, but Keria not able to land that one. But gets close, throws the thumbs up, says, good dodging, Summit, great effort. And yeah, at the end of the day, the engage does fail from the side of Liiv SANDBOX. And once again, T1 will look to push their lead.
Yeah, Summit does not have flash still, so he needs to be very careful. Carry was actually looking for potential Zenith Blade flank. He has to back away, which means they get a turret. And if you look at the rest of the members of Liiv SANDBOX, they're in their base, right? There's no ult. Well, they looked for Summit, got a turret, but we got another turret, or we got another Drake. We got, you know, some more vision control over the Baron. They just don't have anything on the map because, like, I think this does boil down to the recon pick in every single way. They don't have great initiation. Their support is not tanky. It's very difficult for him to even clear vision, as he nearly gets seismic shoved to his death here. We'll get away, but
oh yeah. And by the way, they also lost lane. So if they were trying to have a fun lane, you know, we were talking about playing this game on nightmare mode for effort. Certainly, kind of feels like, you know, the script played itself out, you know?
yeah.
Haven't used that meme since 2020, but it's kind of the way it feels here.
Well, T1, they're going to get on this this Baron first. And they have vision control, so Liiv SANDBOX have a long distance to traverse before they can even try to contest this. It's already at half health. This feels so disastrous, so desperate.
They gotta go. They have Meganar here. They're going to try to get on top of Closer. Leo into the backline. They take out Closer, and a great follow-up here from the side of Liiv SANDBOX. But where is the damage? Krako is alone, and that wall was just immaculate. It kept all 4 other members of Liiv SANDBOX zoned away and not able to follow up.
Yeah, this Taliyah pick has been fantastic for Cuz. Great debut game here for 2021. He's had so many great moments. His timing, even his level 6 gank that didn't initially result in a kill, everything he's done on this Taliyah pick has been so perfect, and I don't think that Liiv SANDBOX will leave that one open again, even on blue side as we see the engage once again.
Okay, nice knock up here from Effort, but again, it's just going to amount to the 1 kill going the way of Fate. Some low health bars here on the side of T1, but they're still going deep as they look to take out Summit, and they finally do, but a lot of low health bars still as Fate is going to get engaged upon. Effort desperately trying to help him out, but will eventually go down. Will Fate. Krako for the follow-up here. T1 are not backing down as Kana is just going to be taken out. He gives that kill over to Leo, and the teleport coming in from Closer isn't going to amount to much. So they come in here with the Baron, and they don't even get the inhibitor.
Yeah, they get nothing out of this, you know, besides a little bit of gold in that turret. So a bit of an overextension from T1 here, getting a little bit excited, it looks like, in that last push towards what could have been an amazing fight and what could have led to maybe even the end of the game. As we're going to watch the Baron fight once again. Watch Cuz zone everybody out. You mentioned it earlier. Summit is the one who engages first, right? Looks for the pick onto Closer. He gets it. But look at the wall. And everybody is stuck on the outside, and Krako's like, guys, anybody help? Weaver's wall is perfect here. And then T1 decide to go a little bit overkill. Like, this is actually insane. Follow up there, knock up onto Carrier as he engages. Teddy is trying to look for another kill here, and they are trying to burst down Summit. He does go down, but Fate is here, Effort is here, and everybody else is respawning, and it's like, well, that initiation from Carrier was very, very, I think, misjudging the power level there at this game. They are ahead, they're massively ahead, in fact, and they had Baron buff, but you're not a god at this moment. You're not untouchable.
Well, we're going to have Hex Flash over the wall. The follow-up here on a Krako and Summit. They both just look absolutely doomed. Krako is on the run, but, I mean, he's got so many people after him here. He's a fast boy, but can he get actually out of this one? Nope. Not going to be able to dodge that ability. So 2 kills for nothing. T1 now, even though they kind of had a misguided dive, they're still very much in control of this game. And they do get 2 big pickoffs and look to push mid.
Yeah, Kana is 6-1 and 3 at this point. He's just caught so many different people alone in the side lanes, and just no exception as Marco's kind of, you know, running it down a little bit there. It feels like this is really the beginning of the end here. T1 going to grab an inhibitor, and the second one is free for the taking. Unfortunately, Liiv SANDBOX just don't have the tools to deal with this 3v5, and down it goes, and you know, they can't end here with the respawns coming up in just a moment, but this means they have full control over mid and bottom, the most important lanes to control here for this upcoming Drake. They're not on soul point, so even though, you know, they're very likely going to get this one basically for free, you know, there's not like, it's not like we're going to Elder Drake Or there's a Baron available. Okay, Kana.
All right, well, not sure what Kana was doing in there, but he will be punished for his transgressions. You shouldn't be there alone in the enemy jungle. I mean, we've talked about how we're not a big fan of Rakan, but at least he can do stuff like that. 5v1.
I like Rakan. Just in this case, it feels like it's so limiting, you know. And outside of lane too, when you're behind like this. Just to echo the sentiment one more time. I feel like there has been an echo chamber against the Rakan between you and me throughout this late game here, but T1 just trying to control vision at the moment. Look at the damage output for Teddy at this stage. His Infinity Edge finished. Weaver's Wall, a little bit late.
That doesn't get rid of Banshee's Veil.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I guess.
I thought maybe it would, but
I guess not. Yeah.
Not the case. I don't think we need to give Talia any more buffs, so let's not change that at this point in time. Even though I'm a big Talia fan. And yeah, you know, you were talking about Talia. I feel like Liiv SANDBOX are the biggest shocked Pikachu ever. It's like we'll just leave Talia up and let's see what happens. Like, and then the follow-up is of course just a picture of shocked Pikachu. As they're looking to push in here on the last remaining inhibitor. We'll see if Liiv SANDBOX can get any kind of defense going. They do have almost Mega Gnar, I suppose, but insanely fed carries on the side of T1.
Yeah, it's going to have to be Croco trying to lead the charge.
All right, well, he's trying to get a couple of stuns, and Keria is going to get isolated here just a bit. Mega Gnar does come out. Croco, though, immediately going to be blown up by a nice shockwave. In goes Summit, a gigantic engage, actually, trying to get on top of Closer. But at the end of the day, Teddy just does way too much damage. Keria says, here, you guys deserve a treat. I'll be generous. Gives his life away. And T1, against Kai'Sa, they might actually consider not going in here. They were moving out.
They have so many minions,
Kai'Sa and Victor. Yeah.
I think they could commit, although they have to be decisive. They can't just sit here and eat death lasers. Gonna have to back out now. They definitely wanted to at least get the next. Victor's getting a kill here. Fate's not done with this. A little bit of indecisiveness.
Yeah, well.
They get neither the Nexus turret, nor do they get out with their lives. So, I mean, the minion wave was there. I get it, but Kana's gonna solo this Drake, and I don't think there's anything Liiv SANDBOX can do about it. So, yeah, now we have 3 inhibitors down. Baron is up. And Liiv SANDBOX can't come over. They're going to send Croco to try to clear vision. But with T1 respawning, they're just going to head straight to Baron and look for the fight. They clear pretty quickly, right, with the Victor. Liiv SANDBOX, they're not just going to clear vision. They're actually going to commit to this. Victor's just going to stay back to defend. This is risky, but you got to take risks when you're behind.
TP's coming in. This is exactly what you do as a response. Kana, as the Camille fed at this point in time, he just totally ignores Fate, and that wasn't really the play, as he thought he was a bit stronger than he actually was, I suppose. Keria going to move in here. That shockwave gets nobody. Baron does go the way of Liiv SANDBOX. Now they're going to get on top of Closer here, as this game a bit more messy than it had to be. As Kana's going to go down, we have the TPs coming in here from Liiv SANDBOX.
The minions are pushing down that Nexus turret. So, you know, someone's going to have to go back. Croco does get back with the rest of his squad, so they can't actually push the issue.
Nexus turret. Oh, it's going to live just barely.
And they actually handled this situation, I feel like, Liiv SANDBOX pretty well. And that was a very sloppy teleport from Kana. He came in, didn't execute that very well, actually went down to 1/3 health. Had he just decided to push for the Baron instead, because Victor had to stay back to deal with the minions, I think they would have actually been much better off, because we're going to go back in time here quite a bit and watch this fight. But I think that the way that this could have gone for T1 would have been much better to actually just try to contest the Baron instead. Because Victor had to be back. If Victor leaves, then you walk away from the Baron and the Nexus turret probably goes down. So, really nice fight here for Liiv SANDBOX, but this was a while back. So we're going to watch this again as well. I actually really want to see what's going on in live, because this is when they stay too long and, you know, end up losing 2 members. Kana goes out and takes the Drake by himself, but where did T1 decide to try to push the issue here? Because they, you know, they have Baron buff, Liiv SANDBOX do, on just, I think, 3 members? I believe it is.
Take a look at that gold difference graph. This is, you know, You've got Leo and Fate that have just been eating super minions and getting more and more gold. Take a look at the gold difference. At this point in the game, that's negligible.
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing. Kai'Sa's 6-1. He's got full build. The Victor, full build. If T1 take a bad team fight, they can still lose this
game.
That's incredible to say at this point.
Yeah, if either team gets aced, it's over. Very likely. Baron buff hasn't obviously been very helpful here for Liiv SANDBOX, but T1 have, because of the inhibitor control they have, they still have control of the map until this very moment, right? Inhibitors are respawning. The top inhibitor is going to be the last to do so. But this is actually a chance for Liiv SANDBOX to move out on the map for the first time in a very long time and control vision and set up this next Drake fight in their favor. These are the things that Liiv SANDBOX finally have. The ball will actually just barely be in their court for once in this game. And if they can have a strong engage or a longer team fight where Victor could do massive damage, and this is definitely winnable. And this game didn't have to be this volatile. This game didn't have to be this close. But T1 were very indecisive around some of their engages. They decided to stay too late on a lot of their pushes into the main base.
Yeah.
The teleport.
That was really the main issue, right?
Yeah, the teleport from Kana didn't work out either.
We've seen so many other teams in the LCK. They get a lead and they play it safe. And T1 in the past have been the team that does that. Them and old Samsung, it's like, okay, we get a lead and we lock it down. We make no mistakes and we just win. And that's kind of like how the LCK in the past had like a very passive kind of meta, and it was all about controlling and scaling and stuff like that. But new T1 with a lot of these younger players, you know, they don't have Faker. They have Teddy and Cuz, but maybe those guys aren't making the shot calls. They force these very aggressive plays, and you know, Kerry is kind of the guy that's pushing the issue, right? And he's from old DRX, and that was their play style. But I just wonder, like, you know, that was definitely unnecessary. It's kind of why we're harping on it. Like, T1 were so far ahead, and they could have just played it safe, take down the inhibitor slowly but surely, move away, take the Baron, maybe, you know, get Cloud Soul, and then push to win. But now we're in this really awkward spot where we're nearing all the carries on the side of Liiv SANDBOX have full build, and you put yourself in this position where you were gonna win 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Now you're only gonna win like 75% of the time.
Maybe not
You
even.
shouldn't be giving away percentages like.
Yeah, maybe not even 75. Like maybe like 65. And
yeah.
like, I mean, this fight goes either way. And the winner of this fight, like this, the last fight decides this entire game, and it's over a Cloud Soul.
Depends on how many people die.
Sure, of course. Any wipe.
It's
right?
like 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You get an ace though. Going to be in dire straits. We're actually going to see the Taliyah ult used here to actually secure the Drake. That's actually a pretty great utility that Taliyah offers that unfortunately Udyr does not. It's just being able to say, well, we had positional advantage. And when Liiv SANDBOX actually took back control of the map, or when they had, you know, everyone in T1 was back on the base and they backed off and the inhibitors came back up, they didn't actually aggressively take vision. They were a little bit indecisive. They kind of stayed back on their side of the map, didn't make any pushes to try to control that Drake vision. And this is what happens when you just leave that to chance. T1 will just say, oh, well, if you guys are going to back off, we're going to lock you out. And we're going to take this Drake. I mean, we are 40 minutes into the game now, so it goes down instantaneously.
Yeah. And they have Cloud Soul. Take a look at the ult's cooldown for Taliyah. I mean, it's basically back. By the time they fight, he's going to have it back. So I'd like to imagine it's veteran Cuz saying to all the younger players, like, hey, guys, calm down. Like, nobody's fighting right now. I'm putting up a wall, and nobody's fighting, and that's that. I say it, and we're going to take the Cloud Soul, and we're going to play it out slowly, and then we're going to win the game, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's him just calming everybody down and make the safe play. I like that out of Cuz.
They're also going to get tons of shockwave value with this, you know, triple and soul here. So it's going to be closer being able to use that one really, really often. And actually, you know, potentially use it in, you know, the lead into a fight in the very end of that same fight, because the cooldown is pretty short on that one. And they're just going to try to control this vision around the Baron at the moment. And, you know, right now, Liiv SANDBOX, they have to rush over here, because they don't know, they don't have vision. There's a ward actually just there on the pit, actually, that T1 didn't clear. So that's actually huge for Liiv SANDBOX, because that actually gives them so much time. And they're actually going to get control of this. They're being aggressive here. Instead of collapsing onto Cuz, I think they didn't see him there. And this is actually where Kana is going to get a lot of value in the side lane. Like, look at him over there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to mention. It's like you're on a timer. You either go now or you're just going to have your base pushed. So make a decision. They're going to go here for the Baron. The wall is going to come down, but that kind of keeps everybody inside Liiv SANDBOX safe for now. They're like, okay, thank you for the wall. That's very nice of you. We're going to take down this Baron. For us, Udyr is going to get that, but they're just going to try to stop the back. Keria going in. Trying to get on top of Leo, but we have triple back on the left side, and they should be able to stop this, but the Kai'Sa is going to go down. Effort desperately trying to save his AD carry here, but that is not going to happen. So 2 members of Liiv SANDBOX now are down, and we'll see if they can defend even with the Baron.
I mean, this is a game of chess that T1 won. Okay, you send half your team back. We're going to delay the other half, and then we're going to beat them in a 4v2 fight. Then what are you going to do? You got 3 back. You defended your base, but how are you going to defend against 5 members of T1 now, even with Baron buff? This should be over.
Oh, boy. Trying to get on top of Krako here. It's protect the president. Fate needs to survive and clear the waves, but I don't know if he has that. He's going to stopwatch, and he is just probably going to go down. He's going to zap 1, though, and stays alive for an incredibly long amount of time. How is this guy still alive? It doesn't matter, though, because Teddy is still as well. And Fate has bought a lot of time, but Teddy, it looks like he just wants to auto down this Nexus. Krako being a pest here on the left side, but he's going to go down as well. Double kill now to Teddy, as he will just be able to auto down that Nexus just barely. Actually dies right at the end, but man.